Today we are elevating your space. I'm going to show you how to transform a plain old boring wall to a gallery wall in your home. I make gallery walls all the time because I'm an artist and my house is always overflowing with paintings, and I'm always trying to make the best use of my wall space and put as many paintings up as possible. And I get bored real easily, so I'm always like switching it around, and then I move a lot, so I always got like new walls to work on. Anyways, I make a lot of gallery walls including the one behind me. So today I'm going to show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to do this gallery wall specifically. By the way, this is called a grid layout. I did mine with paintings, but you see it a lot with photo walls and frame photography. A bit later, I'm going to tell you 5 things your grid layout must have, but first, let me finish this introduction. Which is a gallery wall I did in my new condo right after I bought it. So you're gonna see like a bunch of furniture and mess around because I was still moving in. I'm gonna show you a step-by-step guide. I'm gonna show you tips and tricks. I'm gonna show you a couple different examples of gallery walls I've done, and specifically we're gonna go through this one in great detail. Okay, let's get started. Here are timestamps so you can skip ahead or jump back if you need to. So step 1 is to be the wall.
I gotta be the marble!
The first thing you have to do is measure your wall space so you know exactly what you have to work with. There's no point in laying out this grand plan just to find out that it doesn't actually fit on the wall that you have available. You can use a tape measure or a ruler for this step. Step 2 is give your pet or your partner or whoever some love, because you may be at this for a while depending on how many works of art you have to hang. And to set a vibe. I lit some candles, I turned on my little party lights, like I was like, all right, we're about to do this thing. Step 3, take out your artwork, pictures, or photos that you are wanting to hang. Until we've done the next step, which is the layout, you don't know yet if all your options will actually fit on the wall or which ones will work best in the space, but for now, just take out your pictures that you're considering. And all these works of art I did were all from paint-in tips that I did back in 2020 when we were all like stuck in the house. I went live on Instagram like every week for a couple months and did so many live painting tips where I was just teaching people like how to do these paintings. And I was like, you know what would be really cool is a gallery wall with all these painting tip pictures. We were all having a hard time coping with what was going on in the world and also just having to be in the house for that long. So I just wanted to provide a safe and happy space where we could laugh and vibe with people across the world and listen to good music and learn to paint some art. I was only intending to do it like once or twice, but people enjoyed them so much that I ended up with over 30 of these paintings. They're not all going to fit on the wall, so I narrowed them down to my favorites, and with this layout, I was able to easily swap them out whenever I felt like it. Step 4 is to make your layout. There's 2 main ways that I see people do this. One way, which I didn't do, but it's really smart, but I've seen people lay out their artwork on pieces of paper, like large pieces of paper, trace out their artwork so that they have the dimension of the art on the piece of paper, and then tape up the pieces of paper on the wall so that they can get a visual idea of the layout without having to go through all the work of actually putting their paintings up and seeing if they like it. And then they can easily move the pieces around and get a really good idea of what the layout looks like before committing to the idea. Pro tip is don't use clear packing tape or any kind of heavy duty tape for this, because that kind of tape is so strong it can peel the paint off your walls when you remove the paper. I recommend blue painter's tape or washi tape for this approach. And then there's a way that I did it, which is not that way, but I am an engineer, so I am like really meticulous and really anal with like dimensions and exact like spacing and numbers. I needed like a drawing blueprint layout, so that's how I did it, because that's the way that my brain works. If I just laid it out on the wall with paper, the dimensions wouldn't be exact and that would bother me. I created like a drawing layout in my notebook and then took it to the wall. So whichever way that you want to do. I will say that because of the fact that I knew all my pieces were the exact same dimensions, they were all 11 by 14 inches. So I knew that like the dimensions and the spacing mattered a lot. If you're using paintings that they all are the exact same dimension like I did, any inconsistencies will stand out like a sore thumb. And step 5 is to put your layout on the wall. Here you see me using the dimensions I calculated in my drawing to put my layout up. I won't go into all the math of how I figured out my layout because I imagine you're not interested in that level of detail, but comment below if I'm wrong. But I will give you some pro tips to help. Also, if you're going the paper route, this is where you start taping your paper on the walls. And I will say there's always approach number 3, which is just to completely eyeball it. No paper, no drawing layout, just start hanging things up and adjust as needed. This is honestly the route I go most often. Pro, it's less upfront work, but con, you may end up with more unnecessary holes in your walls from your adjustments. And if you are eyeballing it, skip this step and just start hanging up your artwork. Get your layout together and then also lay out your actual works of art on the floor in your home. So the supplies I used were a tape measure to get the overall dimensions of my wall. I used a ruler to get straight lines and mark all my tick marks and my dimensions, which I'll show you in a little bit. I used a level to make sure that my lines were level. I used a pencil to make my lines, and I used thumbtacks for the actual hanging. So if you're doing option number 1, which uses pieces of paper for your layout, obviously you're going to need paper for your supplies and tape. And you need whatever hardware you're going to actually use to hang up the artwork, whether that's thumbtacks or nails or command strips or screws even. I use thumbtacks because it's really easy and they're a lot cheaper than like the command strips and a lot less invasive in my wall than like nails. Also, if you're using anything like nails or screws, you probably want to use a stud finder to make sure that there are no like pipes or conduit behind your wall that you could accidentally drill into. If you're just hanging like lightweight artwork, I wouldn't even go the nails or screws route unless you just absolutely have to. I would just use more simple routes like thumbtacks or command strips. And I've hung up some like really big, heavy works of art, and thumbtacks always get the job done. I just add more thumbtacks the heavier the painting is. Pro tip is don't have your works of art touching or even near touching. You want at least an inch between your paintings or your works of art, whatever you're hanging, because if they're too close together, they look very cluttered. A lot of people say like your paintings need to have at least 2 to 4 inches apart from each other for spacing. I would say that your spacing just depends on how big your actual paintings are. If your paintings are smaller, you can get by with like 1 inch or so between paintings. If your paintings are really large, you probably want to do a little bit more spacing between. That's when you get up to like 3-4 inches. Again, it just depends on how big your wall is and how many works of art you have to actually hang, like what you're working with and what kind of vibe you're trying to go for. If you're trying to go for a bit more statement piece, you may just want to have like one big one in the focus and then a couple more scattered around, but not too much going on. If you're trying to go for like a maximalism vibe, then you just may want to put as many on the wall as possible while still keeping it like neat. The plan that I have doesn't really have like a statement piece or focal point so much. It's more so like maximalism vibe. It's like more so like the reason why it's so cool is just because there's so many works of art on the wall. The spacing that I'm using between my paintings is 1 1/8 of an inch. So if all your paintings are the same size, you're probably going to be doing like a grid method with this wall layout.
So as promised, here are 5 things your grid layout must have. Number 1, so whether you're using paintings, photos, or framed artwork, you want all of your pieces to be uniform in size. And if they're framed, your frame should also be uniform in size and shape. Number 2, equal spacing. Each frame should be spaced evenly apart, both horizontally and vertically. And try to get the dimension of your horizontal spacing to be as close to the dimension of your vertical spacing as possible. This helps maintain that grid pattern. Number 3, it should be using straight parallel lines. This is where that level really comes into play because it's hard to get those lines straight and your artwork straight just by eyeballing them. Number 4, the grid layout should have symmetry with equal numbers of frames or pictures on each side of the center point or the focal line. And number 5, you want it to have a cohesive theme. Your pictures could be unified based on color schemes or subject matter or style. For example, if you're doing a photo wall, maybe all the photography is black and white and has black frames. All of the pictures on my paint and sip wall have a similar style. They're more simple artworks, but if I just slipped in one masterpiece landscape in there, it would stand out a lot among my more simple paint and sip pictures. And if you're doing family photos, you probably want them all to be either black and white or all to be in color. Some kind of consistent theme or color palette helps the collection feel intentional and harmonious and just very unified and cohesive on your wall. And here are a few more do's and don'ts for gallery walls in general, not just a grid layout. Number 1 is my biggest pet peeve. Align artwork based on their center points. Don't line them up based on the top or bottom of the artwork. Number 2, hang artwork at eye level, not nearly touching the ceiling. Unless you have a piece of furniture under the gallery wall, it can be closer to the ceiling, but even then, leave a gap before you reach the ceiling so the wall doesn't look too jam-packed or cluttered. Number 3, leave a larger spacing for your outside border than for your spacing between pictures. This border helps frame the entire gallery wall. Number 4, spacing between artwork depends on the scale or size of your wall. Typically, the larger the paintings, the larger the spacing I use between artwork and vice versa, but that will completely change based on the wall size. Because at the end of the day, you want to fill the space and make the most use of your negative space, which is the area not being utilized. Here are some examples of different spacing in my wall depending on the wall size. So number 5 goes completely against a lot of things I said earlier for the grid layout, but use variety. Mix horizontal and vertical pictures, have some pieces framed and some not framed. Consider adding non-artwork pieces like personal objects, mirrors, or plants sitting on ledges. Add some textures. The more eclectic you want your gallery wall to be, the more variety you should add. The more minimalist you want it, the more simple you should keep it. And if you happen to be interested in any of my works of art, you can find original paintings, art prints, and apparel on artxsun.com or email me at info@artxsun.com. Number 6 is my favorite tip, and that's to just make it personal. Slip in sentimental items, use personal or unique pieces that reflect your personality or tell a story. You want your gallery wall to reflect who you are and what you like. And lastly, number 7, one of the best ways to add unique touches to your home art is to support your living artists. Buying art or art prints, which are a much more affordable route, but buying art from living artists is a great way to have something unique and special and handpicked in your home, while supporting the dreams of others. Okay, now back to the review.
I kept this wall like this for at least like 2-3 years in my condo, and I just changed it out recently for 2 really large statement pieces. But it was cool because of the fact that all my measurements were in place, that I didn't actually need to remeasure anything. I just took out all the other thumbtacks and kept the ones at the top so that I could just boop, boop, like put these 2 paintings up.
Oh hey, by the way, watch to the end for some behind the scene clips of Hanada being extremely unhelpful but very cute, and drop a smiley face emoji if you made it this far.
But yeah, that's how I made a gallery wall. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, let me know. Please like and subscribe if you like the video, and follow along for more artsy things. And have a good day. Alright, so we got 14 Hanada, and then we got 1 1/8. And then we got 14, and then we got 1 1/8, and then this is the last 14.
She is not counting. You gotta keep the numbers. That's why I keep you around. To do my finances. That's why I keep you around. My sweet baby. Look at that tail. And you're fired.
Alright, Hanada, I have done a lot of work, and I'm not exactly sure what you're doing.
But me, let's see what I've done. This is supposed to be a we, not I situation. There's no I in team type of thing, but you know, sometimes you, Hannah, baby, what? I'm trying to record. Your nails are sharp. Release me. Thank you. Okay, so